Hi, I'm Pi Lanningham, CIO of SundaeSwap. I'm here at Frames in Port Authority, Manhattan, for the New York City Cardano meetup. Fabrizio invited me, and been having a blast talking to people. Obviously, they're very excited about our recent launch, and so I thought it would be good to take a break from managing the team and pushing out fixes and come see what the community's up to and kind of connect with people on the ground.
Welcome everybody to the Cardano Army, supporting advocacy, education, and community for the Cardano movement since Epoch 288. Today we bring you an exclusive interview from Chef Theodore's Twitter space. Come tune in every Thursday, link and timestamps are available in description. Here is an important announcement from Pi Lanningham, CIO of SundaeSwap.
Whenever you would like, Chef, I'm willing to announce a program that we've been thinking about, and we'll have an article about this, very soon. But I kind of wanted to give you an exclusive, since you have a lot of SPOs here, to talk about what we're thinking about doing to kind of balance the scales and help redistribute and keep the SPO community healthy and alive. So with our successful launch, we now have something like 40 million ADA worth of locked in our smart contracts. And that is ADA that is not delegated to an SPO, and it is not contributing to the security of the protocol. Luckily, IOG were very clever when they designed this protocol. Cardano has the ability for smart contracts, including the ADA locked in liquidity pools, to be delegated to SPOs. And so what we have done is designed our protocol to allow that to be delegated to SPOs. And so we will be starting a program, kind of maybe spiritually or morally similar to the Cardano Foundation grant program, where the currently 40 million, and I'm sure that number will grow, that ADA will be delegated among a number of stake pools. The scoopers will not be eligible at first. And it will be focused on initially people who have votes from the community as part of the ISPO vote, because that's a signal of that somebody in the community trusts them, even if it wasn't kind of the top of the barrel. And then going forward, the DAO, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, that is one of the things that they will regularly vote on with the Sundae token, is where to delegate that to. For now, the rewards that are earned by that will go into the Sundae treasury, which is, again, under the control of the DAO. But over the long term, the DAO can vote on using that money, the ADA earned by that, towards other purposes. So, for example, maybe there is an ADA yield farming program for people who lock up their liquidity.
Welcome to the Chef Pool Twitter space. And now here he is, your host, Chef Theodore.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our Twitter space, What's Cooking? I am your host, Chef Theodore, and we also have our co-host Justin with us from the Cardano Army. Hello, Justin, how are you doing today?
Doing very well, Chef. Thank you so much for bringing me on. Really excited for the whole show, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Just before we get to our guest, I'd like to start with a small intro, or more like a review of the past 5 years, because I think it's really important to give a clear picture of, how it was when we started our journey in Cardano back in 2017 and the things we've accomplished up to now. Cardano launched in 2017 with really a whiteboard video and Charles' vision. You could buy ADA only from Bittrex back then, and the only thing you could do with Daedalus for quite a few years actually was to just, store your ADA. Now in July, back in 2020, we hit one of the biggest milestones in the Cardano history with the launch of Shelly. Now, that was the beginning of the decentralization era. Now then in 2021, we've started seeing NFTs, native tokens, smart contracts. And now we finally have the much anticipated launch of SundaeSwap DEX. Now, this has definitely been a crazy ride with a lot of FUD, a lot of FOMO, good laughs, and lots of memes. Swap?
It's me, the Cardano FUD monster. Oh, just saw that SundaeSwap released on Cardano Network this week, so I was coming to let everyone know the truth about Cardano. Cardano is just vaporware, didn't you know that? Cardano doesn't even have smart contracts yet. Cardano is still a ghost chain. It can only do one transaction per block. It is a vaporware ghost chain, and it's the worst stablecoin ever.
Hey, who is paying you over here? Solana? Solana brought you up here to say these things?
Solana? How did you know they're paying me? I mean, hey, you may have won this round, Chef, but the FUD monster will be back. I always come back. Ha 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 ha.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of our show. Now, as someone that has seen ADA grow since day one, really, guys, I can't be more happy and proud for every single person in this community, everybody here on this audience, and out there working really hard that wake up every day and contributes in their own unique way in this ecosystem. Slower transactions or failed transactions and congested network right now are things that I actually personally celebrate because it means that Cardano is actually growing. The community is so big right now. I'm not sure if you guys remember how many people we were back in 2017. Charles' videos probably had 100 views or so. But now we have all the attention. And don't get me wrong, my first swap went through the first 7 minutes after the launch, and it never get filled out, and that's okay because we were all expecting those things to happen. All I'm trying to say is that there's always a bright side on everything, and we should always take a step back and see the bigger picture. Now, I'm not going to hide the fact that I'm very excited that we have PI as our guest today, and I'm really looking forward to chat with him. But before we start, I'd like to do some housekeeping and set few ground rules because we will open up our conversation to the audience as well, and I would really like to put a few things on a perspective here. We're all here to have a constructive and an open conversation today. Please be respectful to everyone. This is really important. Even though we have the opportunity to ask many questions to PI today, I decided that it would be only fair if we limit our questions and open it up so the audience can ask questions as well. We do know that PI's time window won't be that big, so I will try to keep it short on my end. That way, we will have more people that from the audience that could ask these questions. Please, if you have questions, it would be very helpful if you have them written down and your thoughts put together before it's your turn to speak. Lastly, I'll have to state as a disclaimer that I am a pool operator myself, just to put it out there. I'm not sure if Justin and Mike would like to add anything on that.
No, just wanted to say we're really excited to have Sundae on the pool, and yeah, let's just keep it really respectful. I think we're all on the same team here, right? We're all on Team Cardano. We all want Cardano to win and be successful, and this is just one of the big stepping stones to get there. So just along the way, let's just remember we're all on the same side. We're all on the same team. And thank you so much for the Sundae team for showing up today, as well as all of our speakers. We have an awesome panel of pools after Sundae. So let's also keep in mind that there's going to be great conversation there as well. So thanks for having me, Chef. Always good to partner with you, buddy.
It's always a pleasure. So yeah, without further ado, I would like to welcome PI on our Twitter space. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. And I just kind of want to add on to what you said. SundaeSwap has never shied away from constructive criticism or anything like that. So, feel free to ask hard questions. I'm here to answer hard questions if you have them. We just ask that you keep it respectful. So,
for sure, yes, for sure, indeed. So, PI, before we get to the present, what I would like to ask you is what happened in the time frame between the ISO community voting and now? I think the most common question after when Gogan was when Sunday.
Yeah, so we launched the community vote in order to prepare and start onboarding our scoopers. It's a really complex piece of software to get onboarded, and there's lots of kind of tuning that people had to do in order to get their setups running efficiently. And so we were working on, working with the auditors to finish up the smart contracts and address any issues that they had found. We were working on fleshing out the UI. We were working on building up the infrastructure so that we could report stats, which aren't in the UI yet, but they're coming very soon. We were building out the ability to do yield farming. Originally, we were working on the taste test. As you know, unfortunately, that got cut for time. And we were just preparing for launch. And it is staggering how many things go into a launch like this. And so, we were just working on that and getting ready. And now we are. Now we've launched, and it's, we're very happy with it.
Yeah, for sure. Now, a couple of weeks ago, you guys posted this blog post regarding the expectations that the community should have. Can you please elaborate on that? And how have you seen the first days after the launch?
Sure. And I'll also preface this with an unrelated note. The Twitter Spaces application has been really shoddy lately, and it's been crashing on me a lot. So if I disappear, I apologize. I'll try to get back in as quickly as possible, but I just thought I would let everybody know that that's a possibility.
Yeah, that happens to me as well.
In terms of the congestion, right? So we started looking back in November, we started looking at, okay, how much space and memory units and CPU cycles do our contracts take up? And how does that compare to the kinds of load that we're seeing on our testnet once we launched our testnet? And we've been looking at that question for several months now. So much so that I flew out to London to talk to IOG about this question, and we've been collaborating with them on when the right time to launch would be, and what kind of the potential outcomes are going to be, and what plans we have for addressing those. Once we got to a point where we were comfortable that we could keep up with day-to-day traffic, right? Like the normal steady state traffic, then we felt comfortable. However, there was so much anticipation behind our project that it was unavoidable that there would be some amount of congestion and problems on day one. Our website stood up just fine because that's a thing that you can press a button and scale as big as possible, but you can't just press a button and scale the blockchain as big as possible without compromising the global consensus and the global agreement that everybody is reaching on every single block. That has to be a very careful and meticulous process. So there was going to be some kind of congestion no matter when we launched in the next 6 months. And delaying our launch, for example, would have led to a potentially worse situation as other protocols launched, or as more anticipation around our project built up. So we had to make the difficult decision to prepare people for what they were likely to experience: long backlogs, congestion on the network, things like that, and kind of rip the Band-Aid off and let that initial kind of flood and that initial dam burst, so that the market could and the network could recover as quickly as possible. If we were 1 or 2 weeks away from some order of magnitude change, we would have delayed to wait for that. But the simple fact of the matter is, it's going to be a slow, steady, and gradual improvement over the next, however long. And so there was no kind of critical inflection point where we felt that we could just wait for that and it'll be golden. That being said, things are going to improve. We're going to, in a couple days' time, we're going to see the first Cardano protocol parameters upgrade, and that should increase throughput. And then IOG plans kind of a regular schedule of those up until the point that we reach kind of the current limits based on the current level of optimization of the node. And they've released a really detailed plan of 11 things that they plan to do to improve things over time. Finally, maybe the one thing that we didn't anticipate that was kind of added to the confusion was that the volume would cause trouble with wallets as well. Both Nami and CC Vault are fantastic wallets. We're really impressed with what they've built. And they, scaled up ahead of time trying to prepare for that. But it kind of exceeded even their expectations. And they had a brief period where, transactions were failing to submit or failing to process. And, understandably, that scared a lot of people. Things are quieting down now, and things, I think there's still lots of congestion, but we're working through the issues both on our side, because there have been a few bugs that we've identified. And I think the people at Blockfrost and CC Vault and Nami are all working through their issues really diligently. So hats off to all of them as well.
Yeah, we've seen quite a few things happening with these wallets the last couple of days, but they've been working around the clock. We can all see that they came up with updates right away, and they definitely stood up there. I just wanted to ask you because that I think that happened yesterday or the day. I think yesterday actually. You guys, I'm not a technical guy, so I'm literally asking you this question. If you had, like you did yesterday, added more scoopers, would that have helped at all with the process? Again, I'm not a technical guy, so this is just a question.
Yeah, so it would not have, right? In fact, there's a potential that it could have made things worse, because the bottleneck here is not the scoopers. The scoopers don't do much, right? They're actually a pretty computationally cheap service. The bottleneck here is in submitting transactions to the blockchain, because the anything that runs a script basically has a lower bound. It is at least 10 kilobytes out of the 16 kilobyte transaction limit or the 72 kilobyte block limit. And so you eat up the space in the block when you're running scripts really quickly. So adding more scoopers would have just meant more transactions sitting in the mempool, waiting to be processed, right? More kind of contention over the pool UTXOs. So in actuality, like, it probably made no difference, and could have made things worse.
Got it. Thank you for answering that. Now, I have a very common question that I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the community or the audience have, including myself. What was the thought process behind the ISO and the way you approached it with the community voting? Maybe I'm not sure if would it be possible in the future that you guys could add more scoopers as the network scales and everything else.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for asking me this question, by the way. So the evolution of the ISO, right? The intention of the ISO has been to create a diverse voting population, right? That's why it's important to us. We're trying to get a significant amount of Sundae tokens into the hands of as many people as possible, because we're establishing a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, and we don't want the only voices in the room to be, some investors that the project sold to, or something like that, which happens with other DAOs. So we're really trying to come up with programs that put Sundae, your voting power, in the hands of as many people that care about and are invested emotionally in the project. So the point of the ISO is to get the token, the Sundae token, into the hands of the people in the community whose voice matters. The response to it has been overwhelming, right? And so we have kind of consistently underestimated how much delegation we would be moving around. And it's a problem that we're looking at deeply. I disagree with some of the people who take doomsday stances regarding it. I don't think that it's an existential threat to Cardano, because when you think about decentralization, which is a hard and complicated subject, the reason you want decentralization is to prevent 51% attacks and prevent the opportunity for power to coagulate behind people that you don't trust. And the people that were elected as SPOs are some of the most public faces in the Cardano community, and some of the people who do have the trust and the responsibility of the Cardano community behind them. That being said, I do agree that in the long term, and as a aligned with the principles of Cardano, it's not something that we want to perpetuate and that we want to create, or that we want to exacerbate. So while we do think that it is a problem that deserves being addressed, I'm not willing to concede the existential threat to Cardano that some people kind of believe it is, which is fine. Smart people can disagree about things, right? That being said, whenever you would like, Chef, I'm willing to announce a program that we've been thinking about, and we'll have an article about this, very soon. But I kind of wanted to give you an exclusive, since you have a lot of SPOs here, to talk about what we're thinking about doing to kind of balance the scales and help redistribute and keep the SPO community healthy and alive.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to hear what you'll have to say, and I'm pretty sure everybody would love to hear that. My only question before you get there, if possible, is: were you expecting it to be that time window from the time that the community voting happened until the DEX launches? Were you guys expecting it to be that long, or you had a?
I mean, we didn't know exactly when we were going to launch, but we were prepared for a January launch. The thing is, we had to select the SPOs and the scoopers so that we could start testing out the scooper software when people other than us run it. And we found a number of bugs that didn't show up for us, but have showed up for the SPOs. So it was critical to have them through the testnet and well ahead of the mainnet launch. So, we were prepared for a long kind of lead up. It was necessary for our launch to be successful. What we didn't anticipate was the response to it, right? And yes, I know many people in our community warned us about this, but I guess there's still just some humility left in us. And when we started the project back in May, we were like, wow, it would be crazy if we saturated a single pool. When we started the community vote, we're like, wow, we're electing 30 SPOs that among them constitute 86 stake pools. It would be insane if we started saturating that, right? And consistently, the community excitement has outperformed our expectations. So that part of it is something we didn't anticipate, but the timing is something that we were prepared for. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, sorry that I interrupted that announcement. I just really wanted to ask that.
For sure,
again, out of curiosity. But please go ahead with the announcement that you would like to make. I'm pretty sure everybody's really interested to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Now that I've teased you all, so with our successful launch, we now have something like 40 million ADA worth of locked in our smart contracts. And that is ADA that is not delegated to an SPO, and it is not contributing to the security of the protocol. Luckily, IOG were very clever when they designed this protocol. Cardano has the ability for smart contracts, including the ADA locked in liquidity pools, to be delegated to SPOs. And so what we have done is designed our protocol to allow that to be delegated to SPOs. And so we will be starting a program, kind of maybe spiritually or morally similar to the Cardano Foundation grant program, where the currently 40 million, and I'm sure that number will grow, that ADA will be delegated among a number of stake pools. The scoopers will not be eligible at first, and it will be focused on initially people who have votes from the community as part of the ISPO vote, because that's a signal of that somebody in the community trusts them, even if it wasn't kind of the top of the barrel. And then going forward, the DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization, that is one of the things that they will regularly vote on with the Sundae token, is where to delegate that to. For now, the rewards that are earned by that will go into the Sundae treasury, which is, again, under the control of the DAO. But over the long term, the DAO can vote on using that money, the ADA earned by that, towards other purposes. So, for example, maybe there is an ADA yield farming program for people who lock up their liquidity. The ADA will be delegated to a rotating list of small stake pool operators. And the Sundae token holders will regularly vote on who that list is and who's eligible for that. So we're really excited about this, and we've been thinking about this since August or September. And then as kind of the complaints and the concerns from the community started surfacing, we saw this as something that was like a really good opportunity for us to kind of meld those two purposes. And then, Chef, if I could ask, could you bring Matt Ho up as a speaker? He's our CTO, and he can also speak on out to this subject if I get disconnected again.
For sure. Which one?
His name is Matt Ho. He's got an orange shirt on in his profile picture.
Inviting him right now, guys.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our big announcement. We're really excited about it, and I wanted to make that announcement in a space dedicated to SBOs. And
Wow, that's amazing. This is crazy. Do you guys have a timeline of when you're thinking of starting this? And like maybe a plan on how how you're gonna distribute them? Like, would it be like 1 million for each pool, or is there a plan on that? Matt, welcome to our Twitter space as well.
Hi there. Thanks for having me up here. I'll try to take a backseat and let Pi drive unless he drops off.
Yes, we do have some technical Twitter space issues, but we're hoping that we're going to resolve those.
All right. I think if I get disconnected again, I will just hand it over to Matt Ho and I will listen. I'm sorry that Twitter keeps crashing. What do you have? Do you have another question?
Yeah, so my question, and then I promise I will give it off to the audience. It's just a follow-up question to your announcement. Did you guys have a plan for like a time frame of when that's going to start happening, and maybe a plan on the format that will happen? Maybe like how are you going to break it down? Like, you know what I mean? Do you have you discussed it internally about this?
Yeah, so we'll be releasing more information in the coming weeks on that. Really, we're just kind of getting over the launch and recovering from that. But we'll have details out there on how this will work. We were just excited to let the community know, which is why we're hopping on today.
Oh yeah, that is definitely exciting, and we're definitely going to be waiting for more information on that topic. We're really excited about this. Now, I do know that we have quite a few people that would like to ask questions. They requested already. Justin, is there anything that you would like to ask before we hit our audience?
Yeah, as we know with Twitter Spaces, there's a delay from the speaker and the audience. So just to make it clear, everyone, if you guys want to come up and ask the Sundae team any questions, please get in line right now. I have Hosky and Maddie Banks first in line, but please request right now and get in. I'm going to bring these guys on to talk. Matt, I have a very big question for you, sir, as we're waiting for everyone to get in line here. Now, Chef's been taking it easy. We have a hard question for you. If you could make any sundae, what would it be? Are you a banana split kind of guy? Do you like the chocolate syrup, the caramel, sprinkles? Do you want the peanuts cracked on top? Tell me what your favorite sundae will be while we bring on these guest speakers.
Well, to eat, it's got to be the pineapple. So banana split with pineapple on top, I absolutely love that. In terms of which one, that's actually something that my wife and I have been talking over. that I think I'm going to get a tattoo of a Sunday. So I have to figure out which one.
Great answer. The pineapple. I hadn't even considered the pineapple, man. So that's a good hot take there. Thank you.
Me neither. I'm just a chocolate guy. I love triple, quadruple chocolate on everything, you know?
Oh, bro, I gotta get that banana split. You know me, I gotta get that banana split if I'm doing a Sunday. All right, so we have we have some speakers on. I want to take requests in the order in which they came, but feel free to chime in, you guys. But we would like to keep our questions one at a time, so I'll try and direct traffic here. Hosky, the legendary Hosky token, thank you for joining us, sir. Matt Ho is speaking on behalf of the Sunday team, so feel free to ask your question. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Jeff, for the space. Thank you, SundaeSwap, for being here. So I have one question. Pi mentioned the existential threat that a lot of users have expressed concern over in regards with decentralization. So my question would be, what was the reason to allow more pools to be opened by the original scoopers rather than adding additional pools? Based on this, wouldn't that choice have been the worst one as far as decentralization goes?
So the real question is, why have the vote at all? Ultimately, where did that come from? And the primary driver for all this was the scoopers. We needed a method because we have these scoopers, and these scoopers have a trusted role. So it's not as if we're doing, say just a straight ISO, where really anyone from the community can do that because there's no risk, right? Anyone participating in the ISO, their assets aren't at risk. You don't really have to worry about the bad actors. If all we were doing was an ISO, we might have taken a different approach. But the key thing that we needed was trusted scoopers who had something to lose, and so we're incentivized to be honest actors. We've got a pretty long queue right now on Sunday, and the last thing we need is for scoopers to maliciously reorder transactions so some people get ahead of other people. To do that, then, is why we created the ISO voting system. Now, we could have created two votes, but we thought trying to create two votes, one for the scoopers and one for the ISO, would have been incredibly confusing for people. And so we opted to focus on the thing that was most important to the protocol, which is obtaining a set of trusted scoopers. And I think as far as that goes, it's worked fantastically. They've been just a great team to work with. They've been completely on top of things, and that's been running very smoothly. So now that we're past the scooper phase, we have this opportunity, because the scoopers are set, to kind of revisit, these allocations. Again, if not for the scoopers, we might have done things differently.
Right. So, and to follow up with that question is, there were other scoopers or other people that were voted that also had something to lose. So wouldn't it have been smarter to bring those pools in, since they too were voted for, rather than allow multi-pools to become even more multi-pools by adding additional pools under their brand? I guess that's what I'm going to go with.
So now this is more of an issue of confusion. So originally, the idea was to only allow a single pool within there. And I think within the, to only allow a single pool and have these pools die. And it had the opposite effect. It would have worked for some folks, but not for other folks. And it just turned out, whichever way we looked, there was going to be some level of trade-offs. And what we opted for is the least confusion was to focus on just the pools themselves, right, rather than the specific individual pool. Whether that's the right choice or not, in hindsight, it's hard to say. At the time, we made the best choice based on what we understood at that point.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great conversation. Thank you for your question, Hosky. Feel free to stick around, man. We're going to be taking on other guests, question askers, if that's the word that they use in journalism, is question askers. So, Maddie Banks, you are next up, longtime friend of the Chef Pool and the Cardano Army. Thank you for joining today, sir. So, for anyone who's tuning in now, Matt Ho is speaking on behalf of Sundae. We had Pi speak and give us a brief overall view of what it's been like with Sundae and give us a big announcement. So, Maddie, please take it away. Ask Matt any question you have for the SundaeSwap team. Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much. Chef, thanks for hosting the space. And of course, Matt and Pi, thanks for always making the time to be available for these spaces. I think I speak for the whole community when I say that your effort and time does not go unnoticed. I have a pretty simple question that has been really hard to get a finite answer to. I've had several different people give me what they consider to be finite answers over Twitter. I don't really think anybody knows. So here's my question. I got a couple of my liquidity providing transactions to go through. And so I got some liquidity provider tokens in my wallet. My question for you is, I've seen some videos and I've spoken to some people that think that there's utility for those liquidity provider tokens, that they can be further farmed or, staked to earn additional yield. And then some people think that it's just a receipt for the transaction that I'd already made providing liquidity. I was just wondering if you can clear up for me what exactly they're there for.
Sure. They're both right. So in terms of the liquidity tokens, there are some pools, and they're marked clearly on the site, that say yield farming available. In cases for those pools, you'll be able to provide additional liquidity, or you'll be able to do staking on them. So if you go to the liquidity link, and when you look at your liquidity tokens and kind of pop that open, you can see that you can stake them for additional rewards. I think that only applies to a few of the pools. And for other cases, if you're not one of those pools, then you're still earning the rewards based on the fees paid to the pool, and the LP token acts as kind of a redemption ticket.
Okay, and just to kind of follow up on that, first of all, a quick piece to that would be, when do we start to see those rewards? Just because I know people are probably wondering that, and unless that's a simple thing that I missed somewhere. And then the other thing is, so I have provided liquidity to a pool that was, World Mobile ADA. I went to the first one of three, the top pools that says yield farming available for WMT, and it says I don't have that liquidity provider token. Is that because it wasn't that pool? Does it have to be specific to that pool, or is it just specific to that token pairing?
It's specific to that pool. So I think World Mobile maybe has a couple pools at different percentages. I think the yield farming currently only applies to the 0.3% pool. I'm not looking at the right now, so I may be wrong.
Thanks for your time. I
liquidity
appreciate
tokens
it.
are specific to the pool. They're not interchangeable across pools, and even across percentage rates.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much for your question. Great question here. Next in line is the infamous Macro Man, our resident expert for NFTs, a big friend of the show and the Chef Pool. Macro, what's your question for Matt today?
Hey, Matt, I just had a question on if you guys are looking or watching this DeFi 2 revolution, and if you're going to implement any of those things in the future. And also on top of that, if you guys are thinking about doing anything with NFTs. Thanks.
Sure. I have to admit, I'm not as familiar with what you're suggesting with DeFi 2. Can you just elaborate a little bit, and maybe I can answer that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like protocol-owned liquidity, so kind of like a treasury where the protocol would be building kind of a liquidity base that's not all just by the individual users. It kind of just makes it more stable and works better in general, as far as I know. And there's kind of more opportunity for more DeFi kind of interest and that kind of stuff with it. So it's more advanced, and they see it on Ethereum and other chains.
Okay, I got you. So now, I didn't know that DeFi 2 was a term. So the answer is yes, and that part has already begun. The SundaeSwap protocol itself actually already owns a significant amount of liquidity tokens, at least in the Sunday ADA pool. Our expectation is based on the governance of the community that the amount of liquidity that the protocol owns will continue to grow over time. As Pi was mentioning, as staking becomes available, the rewards from ADA staking will go into that protocol. So what we expect is similar to other protocols and different blockchains, that the amount of liquidity that the Sunday protocol owns will just grow over time.
Awesome, man. Awesome. That's exactly what I was hoping for. So yeah, I was also going to ask if you guys are doing anything with NFTs or DeFi / NFT type of things, kind of like BiFi is doing NFT staking in the future. Just curious.
We've not talked about NFTs. Just being a UTXO-based platform, NFTs are pretty rife throughout the platform. You'll notice that every transaction and every pool is associated with a set of NFTs. So the whole thing at the core is very NFT powered. In terms of media NFTs, we've talked about doing things with them, but we have no firm decisions at this point.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Macro, for your great question here. Okay, everyone who's just tuning in, we have Matt from SundaeSwap, and we are taking questions. So the line is getting shorter. If you want to get in line to ask Sunday a question, here is your chance. Don't ask him what kind of Sunday toppings he likes. He already told us it's pineapple. So next we have is Chattervox from the Charles Army. I salute you, sir, as a brother in arms. Welcome to the show, and please ask Matt from Sunday any question you have.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I just want to let everybody know that I have been having ice cream with toppings for dessert for the last 72 hours. So I have two questions. First one is a custodial one. Second one is kind of just trying to get some information, B-side development kind of a thing. The custodial question first is, we started getting everything, set up and we were on launch day and everything like that. And I know the system is slow. We are still waiting for the metadata to fully integrate in and everything. Do you know like how much longer, like is that going to be just like a couple of more day thing, or is that going to be like a week thing? How is that?
When you say the metadata integrate in, which metadata are you referring to?
For Charles tokens, so we can have like because right now the tokens logo or the image isn't being shown and things of that nature. Like the backend for our dev, like we got apparently it got flagged for some sort of review or something, and so we were just wondering how long that process takes and stuff.
So two-part answer on the submitting your token to the registry. We don't have any control over that, so that takes as long as it takes, unfortunately. In terms of how often the system updates, I believe we pull the registry every 30 minutes or so. So as soon as you're approved, it should go through pretty quickly.
Okay, so but does that, if we put it through in the system, is that regular for it to say it needs to pass that process, or did it get flagged for something that's now having to be like reviewed by a team or something?
The SundaeSwap protocol itself is permissionless, so there's no flagging within our system. If you were flagged trying to submit to the registry, again, we don't control the registry.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes perfect sense. The second question that I had was because we understand that the things are going to get launched out and released like whenever y'all have the availability to do that on y'all's roadmap. As we are coming on board, though, it's getting every day it's getting really aware that having like some kind of back-end DEX tool access and some sort of maybe like market chart kind of functionality would be prevalent in the Cardano ecosystem, because there's really not any Cardano centric kinds of those things like that we've seen. So the question that I have is like, is that something that we on our side as the people that are a part of the exchange, do we need to work on kind of bootstrapping our own view scopes, so to speak, into the thing? Or do y'all have like planned pretty soon, like whatever? I'm not looking for like an answer on release date, but just want to know if the juice is worth the squeeze or not for us to spend the mining or proof of work, I guess, to get it going.
I'd probably hang out. We've got project well underway to be able to make pretty sophisticated interface in terms of charting and volume and all those things. Again, it wasn't the priority to get the DEX out the door, But now that the DEX is out the door, we're fully engaged on that. So don't have an answer on timing except for soon. So probably not worth it. I mean, I wouldn't discourage you if you want to create a charting tool. I by all means, but we are putting one together.
That's very encouraging. Thank you so much. We're loving the system and everything, and love what you guys are doing. Thank you so much. Y'all are honorary herd nerds, even if you haven't gone on the Discord and signed up and everything. So for sure, thank y'all so much.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you. Oh, sorry. Thank you. That was Chatterbox from the Charles Army. So please check out Charles Token as well. We have Hosky and Charles here. Great to have you guys both on the call. Thank you, everyone. Just if you are just tuning in, we have Matt Ho from the SundaeSwap team. It looks like the line is getting short again for questions, so feel free to request. We are taking questions for SundaeSwap team right now. Just keep it respectful, and we will keep the vibes positive. I would like to keep the vibes especially positive by bringing our next question asker on, which is Pride Pool, friend of the show, friend of the pool. Thank you for coming on, Pride. What questions do you have for Matt?
Hey, thank you so much. Hey, Matt, I'm so glad you're here.
Hey there.
Yeah, SundaeSwap has clearly been one of the most anticipated projects, and it's really been so exciting the last couple of weeks. And I think we'll be looking back as being one of the most momentous events in the history of Cardano. So congratulations to everyone involved. My question was around the scoopers again. Sorry to bring this up again. I totally understand that we needed trusted scoopers, and that the community voted for a lot of strong pools out there. What's happened since then is we've seen the movement of a lot of Cardano, I think to the tune of like $1 billion or more, to a smaller set of pools. And there's been a lot of chatter around the re-centralization of Cardano. I don't know if you saw the video from Gimbal Labs. James had a really poignant plea about what's been happening lately. And I love the news yesterday where we added a bunch of new pools to the scooper list. And it's just beautiful to see, like a wonderful selection. Shout out to Biopool. My question is, going forward, when the ISO ends in 5 epochs, what are your comp plans around how folks should stake? And I hope there'll be messaging around pushing back stake to the edges. But yeah, I'm more curious about like what happens after the ISO, and how can we kind of like undo the re-centralization that we've observed?
Sure. So, we've definitely observed as well, and so we've taken a couple steps to try to do what we can, to focus energies back out to the smaller pools. The first is really the thing that Pi announced earlier, is by taking the liquidity that is in the Sunday DEX and using the smart contract to stake it. We could then delegate it out to various pools, the smaller pools, to basically rebalance things on their behalf, similar to what the Catalyst Foundation does. The second one, there's a second I can't remember. So
the question is around the comp plans. Like, I think that's great that we'll restake things possibly with the liquidity, but it's more about the comp plans to the delegators and giving guidance.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean. So once the ISO is over, the ISO is over.
So maybe what he's trying to say is, would you put out an announcement saying, okay, ISO is over, go back to your pools, kind of thing? If I get your question right.
Yeah, that's totally the question. Like, how do we how will we communicate
with
that?
A P. I was hearing comp with a P, not with just an M. We'll clearly communicate once the ISO is over, and so if people want to go back to wherever they were delegating, we'll encourage people to do that.
Yeah, it would be a nice thing to have, since we've seen it already with the melt pools. Having so many people just forgotten their stake there. So I think it would be a nice thing if we can say, hey, you know what, an announcement from you guys would definitely go a long way.
Thank you,
Absolutely,
Matt.
I think that's something we can commit to.
Awesome. Great question. Thank you so much, Pride Pool. Great to see you and great to have you on. Our next person in line is Mr. Kevin Schmidt, a longtime friend of the pool and the show. Thank you for joining us, sir. What question do you have for Matt today?
Hey guys, can you hear me okay? I'm on my way home from work, so just want to make sure that you guys can hear me.
Hey, Kevin. Yeah, you're good.
All right, thanks, Chef, for hosting the space, and I want to thank the Sunday guys for coming out and actually, listening to the questions. I think that's really important. Just kind of like, and I understand you guys may not be able to answer this question, but I know that the whole JED thing is going to be waking up soon, so I was wondering if you guys are going to be planning on opening up a list of services from JED for SundaeSwap. That's it.
I certainly hope so. We've had some conversations with the JED team, but we haven't talked to them recently. So I think they've been pretty heads down. But we're very excited about seeing JED on Cardano as well.
All right, thanks, man.
That's a great question. Yes, and I think we're all kind of all eyes on JED to see what happens with the launch there. Bullish Dumpling, thank you so much for joining the call today. What questions do you have for Matt from SundaeSwap?
Thank you, Cardano Army and Chef Boo. Very delicious space today, huh? With ice cream and scoopers and everything. And thank you, the SundaeSwap team. I have a few questions/comments, mostly from the community, delegators and SPOs alike. I will be brief because I don't know when I'll get rugged. First of all, thank you for considering delegating the 40 million or even more ADA in the future to SPOs. I want to add a little suggestion in case you haven't finalized your decision. Of course, it's your decision in the end. It's something that I've heard a lot among the SPOs when they were applying for Cardano Foundation's previous delegations, which is if you could consider delegating a smaller amount to each pool so that you could help more pools with a fixed amount of ADA. So maybe, for instance, instead of giving 5 million to 8 pools, you could delegate 1.5 million so that a pool could produce blocks. That will help at least 20 to 30 pools in your 40 million ADA delegation initially. That's just a small suggestion. Of course, totally up to you. And second is I want to highlight a few Scooper SPOs. Really want to thank them for their great decisions for not opening new pools. People like Conrad, Shweta. Yesterday, I remember also Kaizen. Big kudos to them. I've seen a lot of DMs, discussions in the community applauding them. A lot of respect for those super SPOs. They could have, but they didn't. So I think that really is highlighting the spirit of decentralization as well. Finally, is a feedback on behalf of the community, especially some single pool SPOs, is the lack of communication from Sunday and its scoopers regarding the start of the 5 epoch ISO. Me included, a bunch of other SPOs, because of the lack of announcement saying, hey guys, we have not started yet. Please stay with your SPO until we officially kickstart the ISO. During those few weeks when things haven't started, many pools lost significant chunks of delegation. Now, I don't want to criticize SundaeSwap or your fellow Scooper ISPOs, but I do want to present this feedback to you so that it's a learning opportunity for all of us.
I think we kind of lost Bullish Dumpling, but I think Matt could start actually, getting started with the question. Matt, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just would like to add something on the first point that Dumpling made. Same thing, instead of going bigger numbers, go with the smaller numbers. And a follow up, if I could add something to that question, is have you guys checked there's a Catalyst proposal right now for Fund 7 for staking DAO? Have you guys considered, like, if they get funded, or if you would like to use that project so everything will be distributed evenly in small pools? Please let us know.
Sure. So let me answer those in a couple ways. The first is, in terms of the announcement, in hindsight, I think you're right. we had posted a number of times that the ISO would begin after the DEX launched, but I think clearly being able to reiterate that would have served the community well. The only, so we apologize for that. The best answer we can give is prior to launching the DEX, we were really all hands on deck, just focused on getting that DEX out the door and making sure that to the best of our ability and, the best way possible, given the, the network conditions, that we had a smooth launch. So lesson taken. In terms of how the ADA assets are allocated, one thing I want to make clear is it's not SundaeSwap Labs that owns or controls these assets. It's very much the community. We'll be introducing governance tools over the coming weeks where the community can submit proposals, and it's based on those proposals and the approvals that will decide ultimately where the funds go. And so it's not SundaeSwap unilaterally controlling any of this. It's really the holders of the Sundae token.
And would there be like a platform on the website for all the governance tools and everything else?
Yes, that's what we're racing towards now. I think as the DAO gets more, as the SundaeSwap DAO gets more prominence, the number of things probably that it'll need to vote on will just only increase. So having that community site will be really important.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And sorry, Bullish, that you got rugged there by the Twitter Spaces. But great question. I think that was a very important comment that I know has been on a lot of people's minds. So thank you, Bullish and Chef, of course, for that great question. For people just tuning in, we have Matt from SundaeSwap. I see the line is getting a little shorter again, so you do have the opportunity to ask Sundae any question you've been wanting to ask them, except what their favorite Sundae topping is. We have confirmed it is already pineapple. We have Lido Nation here to ask Matt from SundaeSwap the next question, so take it away, Lido.
Hey, Lido.
Hey, yo. Hey, Matt. Thanks for doing this, and thanks you guys for hosting this. Here's a question that's been on my mind, and I've refrained from talking about it on my educational spaces because I don't know the exact answer. And that's if you can contrast the congestion between the scoopers versus Cardano itself. Like I don't have a clear idea of the scooper and our operation and how congestion at that layer works.
Sure. So it's probably easiest to start off with congestion at the Cardano layer. Every block, Cardano is able to produce a new block of up to 72K in size. 72K for typical transactions of moving funds around, moving an NFT is plenty. However, when it comes to smart contracts, 72K, at least right now until some of the upgrades later on this year, 72K isn't a whole lot. Any single transaction can be up to 16K, and because the smart contract compiled code has to be attached with every transaction currently, it means that a single transaction on a single pool is roughly 16K, maybe a few K less. But you can see that you can't fit that many onto a given block. All right. And so that's what causes the congestion at the Cardano node level. Now, we've done a number of things, including batching transactions, so that even though it's one transaction on the Cardano blockchain, many transactions and many SundaeSwap orders can fit within that one single Cardano transaction. Even still, 72K is 72K. With regards to the scoopers, so there are now 30 scoopers that operate, and the way that it works is we didn't want to reinvent Ouroboros, the networking protocol for Cardano, so it has a much simpler protocol. Essentially, every block that comes up, it selects a set of scoopers, always more than one, to ensure that just in case a scooper is having downtime or network issues, etc., that blocks are still created for SundaeSwap in that period of time. But it does mean that the scoopers will always be, to some degree, competing against each other. We've tried to minimize what that contention looks like, but to some degree, it's necessary to ensure that downtime of a given scooper doesn't stop the SundaeSwap protocol.
Thank you so much. That's a great question and a great response. Thank you, Matt. Next in line, we have actually one of our guest SPOs who will be speaking after the Sunday Swap segment. So just a quick reminder, you guys, stick around after Matt is finished taking questions. We have some awesome SPOs that are going to be telling us their views on decentralization. One of them is Antrix here. Welcome, Antrix. What's your question for Matt from Sunday Swap?
Thanks, Chef, for having me and for hosting this Twitter space. And congratulations, SundaeSwap, for a successful launch. So,
Thank you.
my question is about this delegation, that we are talking about. I mean, are you going to coordinate your delegation with IOHK so that we don't end up in a situation where one pool has both SundaeSwap delegation as well as IOHK delegation?
So because the SundaeSwap governance will be handling it, everything will be done out in the open, so that if IOHK wants to see what the community is doing, the SundaeSwap community is doing, they can. But ultimately, it won't be SundaeSwap Labs that decides. It will be just through a series of proposals and votes from the community that decides how this allocation works.
So consider a case, wherein like the community decides that, pool X is going to get the SundaeSwap delegation, and IOHK also decides that, this pool is going to get their delegation. Will SundaeSwap says, no, he's already getting IOHK delegation, so I'm going to take my delegation out of this pool? Would the situation like that arise?
It's possible, but again, if you want to differentiate the two, the SundaeSwap protocol and the DAO is a decentralized organization. There isn't any individual per se that makes decisions. So that could happen, what you're describing. It could redelegate, but that would look like another proposal. Right? Somebody says, hey, pool X has too much. Shouldn't we shift to this other pool? Here's my proposal. That proposal is voted on. And depending on the results of that vote, the shift happens or it doesn't. It's almost simpler probably to communicate to IOG saying, here is the SundaeSwap DAO delegation. Maybe as you're doing your delegation, you could use this as a reference point so we don't overlap.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Right? Because it'll be easier probably for, at least at this point, for IOG to change their delegation than it would be for the protocol to, because of the voting process.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Great question. Thanks, Antrix, for that question, and we will be hearing more from Antrix in just a little bit here. Next question is from me, which is not me myself, but the username me, which is, of course, longtime friend of the pool and the show, Karst. So welcome, thank you, and what question do you have for Matt from SundaeSwap?
Hey, how's it going? I just want to first off say congratulations on your guys' launch. Congratulations to the Cardano Network as well for doing what it did. I got just a consumer question, I guess. Basically, I went on, waited for the launch, sat there at the screen waiting for it to come on live, and I purchased my Sunday tokens like right away within a minute or two. So obviously there was a big delay. I guess what my question is that was anybody able to purchase at the 11 or 0.11 Cardano? And what could I have done differently to maybe get in on there sooner? Because I felt like I did everything I possibly could. And just basically what happened as to why, because I ended up, let's just say I would have ended up with 40,000 tokens and down to 3,000 at the end.
Right. So good questions. So I'll give you maybe one good answer and one bad answer. So I'll start with the bad answer.
Okay.
The bad answer is, I think we had someone who was, a technical member of the community, look at the protocol on the test net, and they were able to construct a transaction directly and send it directly to the blockchain without using the web interface prior to the starting clock. Now, no orders were executed prior to then. They just put themselves in line. That's the bad answer. The real answer is because the SundaeSwap protocol processes orders in the order received, the reality is it became something of a lottery unless you set your slippage to a very high number. And what became to us we realized after the fact was that this isn't something that occurred in the testnet. Just we hadn't anticipated just how fast the price of some of the pools would move and how quickly outside the range of slippage people would move, and that they wouldn't necessarily understand that. We've corrected the UI since then, so now it's clear if you're inside your asking range or outside. But what you could have done at that time is really set a very high tolerance. What most likely occurred is you set a number, with a slippage tolerance, the price moved so quickly that it was quickly outside your range. And even though you retained your place in line, you wouldn't really come up until the price dropped to that point again.
Okay, so it was basically just down to a lottery point at that point, I guess, based on the settings that I had set.
That's right. So Cardano, unlike Ethereum, on Ethereum, there's a fee market. And so if you wanted to go first on Ethereum, you would just pay more, which is where the very, very high fees come from. On Cardano, the fees are fixed. And so it's much more of a egalitarian system, but that does make it a little bit more of a lottery at times.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Great questions all around. Thank you, everyone. Just as the time is starting to wind down for our portion for SundaeSwap, kind of last call here, if you will. If you want to ask SundaeSwap any of your questions, please request, you guys. If you're just tuning in, we have SundaeSwap on the line here. Matt Ho from their team is answering, and we are fielding questions from anyone who's interested. Just request here, and we will let you hop on up. Now, I was talking to Chatterbox on the sideline. You were saying that a dev from the Charles Token team had a question or clarification for Matt. Is that correct?
Yes, regarding my first question on the metadata, there's something that they're seeing on their end that they would just like some questions answered. They're the Charles Token profile, or Jacob, if y'all are here, and can you request permission up here and they can bring y'all up?
Yeah, sorry. With this many listeners, it's hard to fish him out to request he speaks. But yeah, we'll pause on that. We have James on the line to ask a question. Oh no, actually, James, hold on a second. The official Charles Token account just requested. Perfect. It'll just be a minute while we bring them on.
Hey, so yeah, I'm just curious, is the metadata coming through the Cardano token registry? Is that where it's being read from?
That's correct.
So I've been waiting on a pull request approval for like 2 days now. I don't know if that's normal or if things are busy right now.
My guess it's the weekends. Also, things are busy. I mean, I don't know. We only submitted our pull request, earlier in the week.
Okay. Yeah, I figured it was a weekend, and it is.
All I can say is we are polling every 30 minutes. So once it's in there, it should come through within 30 minutes or so.
Okay, cool. I was just making sure that was the correct way. So thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next we have Fortune with a question for Matt from the Sunday team. Just wanted to let everyone know we are getting ready to move on to our next segment. So if you do have that last question you want to squeeze in here for the SundaeSwap team, speak now or forever hold your peace, as they say. Fortune, what's your question for Matt?
Hey, Matt. Thank you, guys. I wanted to ask if, with regards to the updating of the 24-hour volume and all that stuff, and also with regards to the APR for the pools, the farming pools, when is that going to be updated?
So I think there are two questions. The first is in terms of the time of how long it's taking to process the orders, right? The little message at the top of the screen. Is that your first question? So I'll assume it was the first question.
Yeah.
So the answer is that's actually a near real-time number. The pools are really that, or the queue is really that congested. Every time there's a let up, the numbers keep going up. So it kind of is what it is at this point. One thing that we will be introducing later in the week is we're going to try introducing a process to kind of give you a rough sense of where you are in line. So at least you'll kind of understand like where you are roughly, not exactly, roughly, and how you're moving through it. And we figure that'll give at least people a better understanding of what's happening. The second, in terms of the yield farming, that probably will be at best later part of this week, but more likely sometime next week. Is it Sunday? Yes, it's Sunday. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fortune. Yes, it's Sunday, and we have Sunday on Sunday. So, gaming exports next in line. What question do you have for Matt from the Sunday team?
Hi guys. Well, I just well, I have a couple questions. I know that a lot of people were expecting congestion at launch, and people were kind of excusing that and saying it was a really great launch and everything. But I think it's just to say I think it's a little bit disingenuous to try to completely pass it on, people's expectations of congestion on the network and third party, external wallets, especially since the devs did mention that there was an internal issue with the DEX that wasn't allowing scoopers to process transactions, and Matt had mentioned, where there was that 5.5 million ADA order that was pre-queued before the launch that basically instantly wiped out a huge portion of the initial liquidity that was supposed to go to the public, basically turning it into a lottery, like Matt mentioned. I think that maybe there should be more transparency regarding that and addressing that and letting the public know that this isn't a typical thing that happened. There were some internal issues, and kind of break it down as to things that weren't expected. I think more people would get a lot more out of that than, hey, we were just expecting congestion. Regarding the centralization concerns and the order executions that were brought up a little bit earlier, I had a question regarding that. Was it more the issues and the bugs with the Sunday ADA pools and their inability to process or scoop orders more the reason that the SundaeSwap team decided to basically take it amongst themselves to essentially delegate more influence on the SundaeSwap network to a more centralized amount of scoopers that they basically just picked to work with? That was it more that they knew they could privately inject bug fixes with them rather than trying to work with people that were already vetted and voted for by the community, instead of trying to do that in the middle of a launch?
So I'm pretty confused about your line of questioning, but I'll try to go through them as best I can. You have to realize Cardano is a decentralized blockchain, and it's permissionless. We don't hold any special keys. Once the protocol is deployed to the network, anyone can interact with it. And that means anyone, unfortunately. There's no gate that we can open up, say, okay, huzzah, now you can interact with it. What we could have done is we could have opened up the protocol and launched the protocol just minutes before we opened it, but that wouldn't be responsible, right? Because we would have no time to test. So we needed that time to kind of bake in the protocol. So I'm very comfortable with the way things turned out. It really was the community that received the tokens. It was just a community member who was more technical. And because it's a permissionless blockchain, that's the way it is. Were there some issues with the scooper? Yes, there were. Did these cause material impact to the processing? Not really. With any new software, you have to expect that there's going to be some level of issues. It was just a very nominal delay. So far, in fact, the congestion's been less than what we've expected. We put out an article prior to the launch because we had done testing on both the mainnet as well as the testnet. So we had a pretty good understanding of what we were going to expect, and I think we've seen that. In terms of the timing, and I know you didn't ask this, but I have seen this one before of why launch now, why not launch later? I've seen some picture of the Cardano roadmap and how many decentralized applications there are going to be. And I think, my mind says that we're in the hundreds. We are just one application, and we caused a tremendous amount of congestion. Congestion is going to be the new normal, at least for a while. It's not going to dissipate in a week or two. It will be with us for a while, and it will improve over time. We have a tremendous amount of faith in the Cardano platform and where Cardano is going in the technology, but we know that these things take time. But part of what also makes them take time is things aren't created in isolation. Having a protocol that stresses the Cardano network is actually good for the network, so that the developers can understand and see where the stress points are, so they can make the appropriate decisions as they decide to scale it up. So on all degrees, I feel very happy with how the launch has turned out.
Okay, excellent. Guys, just so you know, we are cutting off the questions. We have a few people that are already in who have put their requests in, and so please stay on the line if you're in the call with us. But just in the interest of time, we're not going to be taking any more after who's already in line. Crypto Muse, you've been waiting quite a while. Thank you for your patience. Please let us know what questions you have for Matt.
Hi there. Thank you very much, Chef, for taking my question. Congrats, Matt and the SundaeSwap team on the launch. So I'm going to I'd like to dig in a little deeper with the understanding of the scoopers. I'd like to understand how the scoopers are actually servicing the incoming requests. From inspection of the blockchain myself, I've noticed that some requests to, let's say, a pool like X-Ray ADA, which probably has fewer requests queued up than Sunday ADA, the requests have basically taken maybe minutes to an hour to service and fulfill, whereas requests on the Sunday pool taken 24 hours, days, in terms of processing. So how are these scoopers actually processing the different pools? Are they doing some sort of round robin fashion, or should the wait time not be uniform across incoming requests? I.e., if they're i.e. spending more time requests or servicing requests with larger queues, and even if that means sort of delaying the requests that are entering the smaller queues in the smaller pools. So if I could get some clarification on how the servicing and how the scoopers are actually servicing these incoming requests.
Sure, happy to do that. So the scoopers try to be as fair as possible, and they all use a consistent algorithm. So I'll focus really on the selection of pools. When you think about the processing times, think of every pool as having its own independent queue. That the queues are not all merged together into a single queue. They're discrete pools right now. So it's almost like you're standing in different lines, right? And the line for the iPhone right now is wrapping around the block. But the line to get a burger, and forgive my analogy, like the line to get a gigantic plasma screen TV is shorter. And so if you're in the shorter line, you end up going through sooner rather than going through in the larger line. And so the way that it chooses is it makes a selection by saying which pools will I try to allocate in a given block. And it first looks for the deepest pools. Where are the longest lines? And it tries to find those pools and bring them up first. But because of the current protocol parameters on the Cardano network, even if we choose the deepest pools first, like a line at Disneyland, you can only bring so many people on board, the ride at a given time. You'd like to bring more, and come Tuesday, we fully expect to bring more than 2x the number of people onto the ride for every given block at a time. But right now, per block, we can only bring on so many people, and so the line goes down. It just only goes down at a certain speed. What we saw on the test net is that the congestion was pretty heavy at the beginning, but by the time we were close to the main net, orders were processing very, very quickly. And so we expect the same thing to happen on the main net, subject to the level of congestion.
So, okay, thank you for that clarification. But so what I've noticed is, am I right to sort of expect that at least over time, the number of, requests that are serviced are going to be equal in terms of transactions on the blockchain? Like it's sort of going to go in a round robin fashion, right?
It divides things up into a couple of different things. So the first is find me the deepest pools. And it reserves some space for round robin allocation. So it has, I think, 3 distinct strategies that it applies to determine which pools to use. And so it's trying to go for fairness. It understands that there are going to be times when congestion happens, but if congestion happens, we want to service the congested pools, true, but we don't want to completely stop up the entire DEX just to service the congested pools. And so there's kind of a middle ground balance that we struck when designing that.
Okay, all right, appreciate it. I just noticed, like, so for example, the World Mobile Token ADA pool, I haven't seen like a scoop take place in a while, and so of course I haven't digged in thoroughly, but keeping track of it, I hadn't noticed anything. So I wasn't sure if there's specifically issues in particular pools. I know I think it was yesterday where Sunday pool specifically had an issue, while other pools were fine. So is the health of all the pools as far as servicing for the scoopers, well right now, or are there any issues in particular pools that you know of?
I mean, we've got some scooper operators here, so feel free to speak up. But my understanding is things are operating well right now. There are definitely things that could be improved and will continue to improve. I mean, we did just launch the software after all, but for the most part, the health is okay. The thing you probably want to think about there or realize though is if you look on the list of pools for SundaeSwap, there are, I haven't even counted, there's a very large number of pools. At roughly 16K per transaction, if nothing else was going on the blockchain, we could fit 4 of these on there. If there are transactions happening against each one of the pools, it will take a while to get through them. And ultimately, it's, the problem is the amount of demand out there. If we had, say, an order of magnitude less demand, I don't think people would be noticing these issues nearly to the degree. And if we had 2 orders of magnitude less demand, then nobody would be noticing anything because, there'd be enough capacity within the blockchain. But because the demand is so high right now and the number of pools is so high, it just takes the time to get to all of them.
Okay. Thank you very much, Matt, for your answer. Appreciate it. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chef.
Great question. So much, Crypto Muse. Next, we have our good friend Ray from GrowPool, and we've talked to him in the past about the Mandala project and a few others. Feel free to ask your question, Ray.
Hey guys, just wanted to say hello. Can you guys hear me okay?
Hey Ray.
Loud and clear.
Hey Ray, welcome bud.
Thank you. Yeah, well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys, Cardano Chef and Cardano Army, for the space that you hold. It's beautiful, very respectful, it's professional. I like the way you guys bring the questions up the line and you give people time to ask them, and you've been giving Matt and Pi, a really great space to answer those questions. And some of those questions are obviously very challenging. There's a lot of stake on the move, obviously, and the small pool community has been hurt by this. So there's tension in the air. I can feel it. So I really just want to speak to my experience as a scooper and being on the scooper team. It's been incredible, very professional. Working with Matt has been amazing, and Pi. They're always on tip. They're always with us. Sometimes it's just hour after hour after hour. I've literally been in there almost every hour of the day over the last 2 days, watching my scooper, making the updates, making sure things are working correctly, and updating the scooper software and making sure the components are running properly. And we're all performing and watching and monitoring how we're doing as scoopers. At this point, I have absolutely no concerns about our performance as scoopers. We're learning a lot about implementation of P2P versus the straight peer topology that we've been using up until now. So this is also a really great opportunity to bring P2P to the fore. I do believe that it offers an advantage in this scenario. It'll be very interesting to see how that plays out between the different scoopers. One of the things that I want to speak to very quickly is one of the questions that came up, I think, from Gaming something. I didn't hear the rest of his name, but he had some interesting questions. And one of them was about the choice of the scoopers. I just want to remind everyone that the scoopers were not handpicked, that they weren't selected by SundaeSwap. The scoopers were voted on by the community through an 808. And that's how those scoopers got on that board, myself included. I had to work very hard for those votes. They didn't come flying in. So I want to dispel any myths or rumors that are flying around out there that this is some specially picked team of scoopers that was put together to help them with their initial launch. We're very fortunate to have the SPOs that we do have on the team that are very technically savvy, very skilled, and are capable of helping Matt and the rest of the technical team do what they have to do to make sure that those scoopers work. So just really, more than anything, I am very pleased, have a lot of confidence in the SundaeSwap team. I've been working with them day and night now over the last month to get to where we are now. I'm impressed, and I know we have a long ways to go. So thanks very much, Matt, to the Scooper team, Cardano Chef, Cardano Army, everybody else who's come here. Thank you so much for making this what it is.
Ray, thank you.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining, man. And it's a great thing that we have you on. Actually, do you want us to give us like your 2 cents? Like how is it for the last couple of days from the Scooper side of things? How do you see the network? How do you see the mainnet compared to the testnet? Could you please give us your insight?
Yeah, the thing I'm most excited about for all the SPOs who are on the call here, we're learning a lot about P2P. We know that's been something that we've been, looking at. It's been coming up. It got activated in node 1.32.1, and it's continuing to be implemented in the node. And so playing with that and how it works, having started from the very beginning where we built our topologies manually, and then we had Pool Tool help us with script buddies, and then we had Topology Updater from Clio help us build our topologies. I think a lot of us are using Topology Updater to keep our topologies up to date. P2P takes this a step further. It's really fascinating to watch how it governs the connections. It holds its cold, warm, and hot peers, and you can define those. You can define your bootstrap peers, and you can also define the peers that you want to stay hot with. And then what we're doing as scoopers is noticing that the scoops that get into the blocks are the ones where we're able to fill our mempools up completely with only our outgoing scoops or our outgoing transactions. So P2P is helping it make possible for us to have enough peer connections to get those scoop transactions into those block producers that are doing those scoops. I think it does a better job than straight topology. We're still working out all the specifics on that, but so far so good. I just wanted to put that shout out to IOG and the implementation of P2P. We are seeing a difference in performance with the scoopers.
Yeah, this is definitely going to make a big difference for sure. Matt, is there anything you would like to add on that?
No, couldn't have said it better.
Awesome. Ray, is there anything else you would like to add, or can we move on to the next speaker there?
No, that's it. Just another big thanks to you guys and to the rest of you listening, and to all of you who are curious and maybe frustrated. This is a long haul. This is a big game. We're bringing economic identity to the 3 billion people on the planet who don't have it. So we're here in the playground. We're starting out to make sure that when we start bringing these solutions to those places and flipping the narrative on poverty in as many places as we possibly can as a global community, that it works right, it works well, and we have a chance at actually making this possible. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on and giving us your point of view. We appreciate you. Okay, we have a couple more questions to get from the audience, and I know Matt has a pretty busy schedule, and we've been going for a while. So we're just gonna go to the last 2 speakers. The Crypto Red Pill. You're next, man.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
there.
of course. Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, I just had a question regarding a tweet Sunday made yesterday. You have already mentioned it. It was the marketing agreement / collaboration between CardStarter and SundaeSwap. And I was just wondering, because there's several images of chats and not even that, but an AMA of both parties mentioning that it was a merger. And it kind of is disturbing to hear that it's just being pushed under the rug as like a marketing agreement. And I was just wondering if you could comment on that. It's no secret that the C-Swap community has provided like millions of dollars, and there's thousands of us. So yeah, I was just wondering if you could comment on that.
Unfortunately, you probably picked the wrong person to ask. So you're asking the tech guy, but I can really only say what's in the public domain, right? I know that I think we spoke with them last on the 19th, and they reached out to us again this morning, but it really wasn't much of a conversation. So that's really all I could say.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess like Matt mentioned earlier, there are some legal issues. So from my understanding, they're not really able to comment on most of the things from what I'm getting. Obviously, we will definitely have more answers later down the road. Hopefully.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Matt. Okay, so Matt, first correct the premise if it's wrong, and then there's a question. So it sounds like the congestion, right? Like, well, okay, the pain points experienced by end users were a combination of factors. There was your app, which did some things absolutely beautifully, and the Scooper model. You're already improving like UX to help people understand where the app is, like where their transaction is in the pipeline or whatever. Then there's the network. And the current limitations on the network, you're already working closely with IOG on those improvements. The third major piece in my eyes was wallets. And really it was only 2 wallets when the dust settled, right? It was NAMI and CC Vault. And there's obviously like a dependency chain there, like Blockfrost and Firehose and a few other things. Does your team have like the appetite, obviously when things calm down a little bit, to work with wallet developers, like just give them some of the feedback, some of the lessons learned to like optimize that piece of your end user journey? Or is there something in particular that wallet developers should do first from your perspective?
So I think that has been the source of quite a bit of discussion internally. Just in terms of that part of the experience. I think definitely reaching out to wallet developers and kind of sharing our take. When the SundaeSwap network or when the SundaeSwap protocol launched, the load on the systems was pretty severe. I think we were sustaining north of 10K TPS on the servers for a long period of time. And just building that scalability in is something that the team had kind of focused on from the beginning. And so sharing that with the community is something that I think we'd be happy to do.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome. That is huge news. Thank you so much for coming by today, Matt. Pi, if you can hear us, thank you so much. I know some of you guys are down there at the New York City Cardano meetup today, and we actually have a few of our team members there to hang out with you guys. So if you hear this, Mike and Pi and everyone who's down there, if you guys are talking to each other, we will be having some of that content to share on our YouTube channel. So our hopes is that people don't get rugged on the calls that we have, especially as we have some of these high-profile guests. So we will be migrating to our YouTube channel. So check out Chef's Twitter, check out my Twitter, the CardanoArmy.io. This is a whole team of people here, but this is our official Twitter. Check out the link in the YouTube. We will be starting to do a lot of these on YouTube Live because Twitter Spaces, frankly, to say it frankly, it just can't keep up with this load.